I welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. Okay, this is January Jumpstart, and it's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion 101, Resources and More. And just like all the other January Jumpstarts, it's to help you folks. There's a survey that's going to be sent out at some point. Please fill it in. We want to know what worked, except from the technical difficulties. We know about those. And so that is that. And so we are going to cover resources, lead programs, and successes. And we are only going to touch on those. And then a conversation if we have one. And that's with the understanding of understanding cultural competency, and then acting in the world as an ally or one with lived experience. And so it'll be some topic of there. But why don't we start with lead programs and successes, particularly because I can't see you. Now we want only 3 sentences. You're 20. It's going to be like like, what is that, fast dating? And so it'll be bang, bang around and say your name, say something in 3 sentences that of DEI, if you wish. If you don't, you can skip that. And would love to hear you doing a book group, or you doing a project. I know in our league, and I can see Elaine. So why don't you? I can actually, when you guys are speaking, I can see you in that little window. But so okay, why don't you start, Elaine?
I'm Elaine Savick, and I belong to the St. Louis Park League with Shelley. And DEI, I don't know, I don't really have any major connection. It's just something I'm interested in.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Fuller from the Woodbury Cottage Grove League, and I have been for a while the chair of our DEI effort. And the more I learn about it, the more I realize that it is enormous.
Thank you. And Woodbury is a great league. Our ED hails from there. I can see you.
I'm Marianne Weiborg, and we have a DEI book club in the Wayzata Plymouth local chapter, and it's going great. We have it every other month and are loving it. Thank you.
Glad to see you, because I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
Next.
Martha Pagan.
Uh-huh.
I also belong with the Plymouth Wayzata group. I am not in the book club, and I'll have to look into that, Marianne.
Yes, you will.
Yes.
Any 1-2 sentences that you've got?
It's been an interest of mine for a long time, going way back to my work career, when this kind of perspective finally reached the levels of, oh yes, maybe we better look at that.
Thank you. I remember that too from work. Next.
Cassie Klinger. I am in Winona. I am new to the league as of about September. So I am just here to learn everything and anything I can about league and DEI so that I can use it for league and for work.
Well, thank you. I know Lynn Thurb.
Oh,
and
Lynn's
Sam.
Fantastic. Yep.
And Sam Strigan. So I know two folks from you. You're a good league. Well, as all leagues are, but I because I know the two, I know a little bit.
Hi, I'm Jane Schreier from the League of Women Voters, White Bear Lake area.
Yes.
I think about 30 communities and townships. Our league just began to form a committee last summer, and I'm the chair, but we're learning so much. And I feel like our group is moving ahead. We really are trying to create some partnerships in the community, which we've done with an organization in our community called Many Faces of White Bear Lake, which is a collaboration of multiple organizations, churches, Lions Club, Rotary, school people, everybody. And so that really is a wonderful way to engage with people and some people who are underrepresented in our community. So that is a good one. So we're working on that, and I would love to connect with somebody else in the league if you're doing some DEI work, because we're moving here. We're kind of just, we have lots of ideas, but I would love to connect. And there's one other thing that one of our members had suggested. We formed, in addition to having a small league committee, we have an affinity group. So I'm starting to send out every 2 months emails to people who might be interested in events and opportunities that are in anywhere in the Twin Cities metro area or in our area, just focusing on DEI issues. So that might be appealing to some people who don't want to come to committee meetings. So
Thank you. That's wonderful. We had some email yesterday, I think. So glad you're here.
Florence Sprague, Roseville Area League. We recently completed 2 local studies that would fit in this. One is with the ADA, looking at ADA compliance.
Oh, wow.
And the other looking at in local voting places, polling places, and then the other looking at equitable representation on the citywide commissions that citizens can participate in.
That's wonderful. Wow. So you're active in DEI. Yes, and my condolences with the loss of your president.
We miss her a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I didn't know her as well as you do, but
I'm Carol Foster, and I'm relatively new also to Crystal, New Hope, Robbinsdale. There's some more in there.
East Plymouth, Robbinsdale. I can almost do it, but
I don't know them all yet. So, but like Cassie, I am here to learn as much as I can.
yeah, and Sheila Webb is wonderful. That's your DEI chair, and then Michelle Jane organizes stuff like the round table. So I know a tiny bit about you folks.
I'm Ann Coates with Eastern Carver County. We did 2 book clubs with our book studies that Shelley recommended 4 and 5 years ago now. So we have lots of interest in doing book stuff, but we've not been able to take the extra step to actually get involved more in the community. And Shelley and I graduated from high school together.
Yes, we did. And also, Laura Hilmer's, you're in your league, right?
We are lucky to have Laura and Kathy Tom as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Dailin Munoz from the Wilmar League, and I joined almost a year ago. So basically, I helped last year with developing all the social media that we are doing here in Wilmar. And I'm here also to learn about the DEI efforts and see what can we do here in town.
And I know a little bit Jessica Robinson, who's on the national US.
Oh, yes.
Next.
My name is Peg Lundquist, and I'm a fairly new league member, and I just joined the DEI committee in Minneapolis. I'm in Minneapolis, and I really don't know a lot yet. I know that the committee is working on finding a training for all the board members on DEI, and that's really the main thing that I know that they're doing currently.
Well, I'm trying to think of the name of your DEI head.
It's
wonderful
Alice
woman.
Mormon, and
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, she's fantastic.
Hi, am I on there? Hi,
Yes.
I'm Liana Hernandez Macias, and I just joined the White Bear Lake League this fall. For those of you who know Heidi Boyd, she called me this past summer and asked if I would consider joining and go out and recruit people, sign them up to register to vote. And then I also translated the 411 card into Spanish to pass out. So I'm just here to learn more about what this committee entails, and hoping to do something good for our city, our state. One of the statistics that I learned from Heidi was that our Hispanic community does not vote in high percentages. So something to look into.
That would be a goal of something. So glad that you joined and the work you've already done.
Thank you.
I'm Harriet Mason, from St. Peter area, Mankato League. This past year, we partnered with the Islamic Club and the Somali community. We are planning to do a lot more in this coming year. Not quite sure how we're going to do it, but that's our goal.
Great, great. And we're going to be in your area, but it'll be a little ways away, Noam, for the convention. So,
Oh, yeah.
So I assume you're going to be able to be there because you're closer than Bemidji.
Yes.
Duluth. Okay, next.
I'm Sue Pierce, and I am a fairly new member, and I just started co-chairing, trying to round up volunteers for registering voters at citizenship ceremonies. So
aren't those fantastic?
They certainly are.
They bring tears to people's eyes. They and then to be able to get them registered is thank you very much.
Rita Mills, Roseville Area League, and I won't repeat what Florence Sprague said in terms of recent studies, but we're a fairly good sized league, and we really need to work on this more. We found out from that equitable representation study that we've got we've worked it through the city councils a little bit in terms of presentations, but I think we really need to work with our league more. I personally, I don't know about you, Florence, but I would be interested in, because of our geographic area of White Bear, if we could meet up with you sometime and share some ideas. And I know our communities overlap a little bit. So, but I think there's a lot more that we could be doing.
Glad to see you, Rita. You've been very, very active in league, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
May I just add, as Jane from the White Bear League, we would love that, Rita and Florence. So let's make a connection.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, no, this is part of what this is. And I wouldn't have everybody introduce it, but that wasn't part of the piece. You got to see each other. Okay, next. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol Barclay from Brooklyn Park, Osseo, Maple Grove. The main thing that we've done, and it's been over the years, we did our forums, our voter forums, and we did partner with some of our various groups, ACER, which is a group of, I think, well, it's something African. I can't really tell you the name of it, but it is a very active group, and we've been very happy to partner with them around voting. So that's about it.
Well, thank you, Carol. Yes, we've got two connections, and we discovered. That's kind of fun when you find people in two pieces of your world. Okay, I assume everybody that wishes to has introduced themselves. At this point, we've done now if you see the screen, the league's programs and successes. We did that by introducing ourselves. We're going to go to resources now. We're going to go through them quickly unless somebody tells me to slow down. What you are going to get, you see, is the presentation with the slide deck. And on the slide deck are all of the URLs. And you can go in also to the our website and the US website, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm mostly that. I'll go quickly on that. So don't say, oh, you're going too quickly. I will. It's 5, and we don't go over 5:30. So let's see what we can do. And like I said at the bottom, the point there. Okay. We have a new portal, and it's wonderful. The first one has the policy that's right there. It's the one you're required to have on your bylaws. It's the US policy, it's the Minnesota policy. You are to have the first 2 articles in your bylaws. This is part of it. So, well, the policy in there is a little bit shorter. there will be a policy because, and then it points to this. This is it. And so realize, if you're going to do bylaws, somebody look at in the spring. Most of you folks have it right there on there correctly, but that's something to look for. And it lists also the one diversity that's not on there, and they've got so many, is neurodiversity. And that would be ADHD, it would be autism. I have a son, well, he has PhD, but he has severe ADHD. And so I'm aware of that as a disability. He's got a 504 disability. So any rate, you can read that in many places. Okay. The US has materials, we have materials. Right now, we did the policy, the resource list. In the US, increased inclusion is associated with increased equity. The majority of organizations with higher inclusion and equity also have greater demographic diversity. That's kind of obvious. There are 2 slideshows that are a part of their resources. I've got the URLs right there. One of them they're from the Council 21. One is DEI values and one is DEI nonpartisanship. They're very, very good. They're PowerPoints that were put together for that council. There are all sorts of other stuff. They reorganized their website. Just as soon as you get a organization's website figured it out, they go, we're redoing our website. And so a lot of the stuff's there, but you have to search for it. And so if anybody wants to give me a call, we can both get on a computer. We can look further, or just dig. If you like to dig through websites, please do. But those are 2 things I feel that are very important. They used to do webinars, and you can see the old ones. You can see copies. You can hear them. They're recordings of them. They were very good. They haven't had one since 21 that I knew of, and I couldn't find any new ones. So any rate, they used to have that. And so they also have a lens statement. I'll get to that a little later. Okay, US, and you see, we'll go back to there. We're looking at now Minnesota. Now the Minnesota looks a little bare. We've got a list to read, stuff to watch, definitions. What you do is you go into local leagues, you go into resources, member resources. At the very top, if you're in the homepage, and it says local leagues, and then you go in, you hit the where you get the list, and it'll say resources. You go into there, and there's all sorts of lists of resources, but it's on there. It says DEI, and then it says DEI portal. And there's a couple other things, the policy you can click on. But if you go into there, then you can see a whole list of stuff. Now there are about 4 or 5 books. I'm going to send to Mary. She just broke into it, but she's the one to add things to it. And wow, I haven't put Josie Johnson's book out on. It's been out for a couple of years, her memoir. That'll go on. There are 2 or 3 fiction, and I have not put a lot of fiction on, but we don't have on there Night Watchman, Antelope, was it Woman Antelope? And it's another one of Louise Erdrich's. And then there's The Other Black Girl. I know that was one that was read by the book club we were talking about earlier. So there's 2, 3. I'm not going to concentrate on fiction, but there was somebody that was talking about DEI. It was somebody with lived experience, person of color. And she was saying, hey, read our fiction. You'll see, you'll just learn a whole lot if you read a story by a Black author, because they'll be coming from that. So I do want to put, the thing is I don't want to put too long a list, because then it becomes, well, which one, do I look at? So I'm trying to kind of pick and choose. I do have some Somali. I've got one that's been back on there for a while. It's called Black Girls Danger. It's on race, queerness, class, and gender. Talk about intersectionality. It's a great book. I reordered it, so I have the paperback version from Amazon just a short while ago. It's not very expensive. It's in paperback, but she is a Black Girl Dangerous. It's just she's fairly kind of radical, but very fun and easy to read. So that's a good one that I'll throw out there, because for a book club, and you get the gender piece as well as the race piece. And it's only, 155 pages and worth it. So there's one I'm going to push. Watches, I've got TED Talks. Well, I've only got about 3. We could add to those, but you can do searches. TED Talks are wonderful because they're usually 20, 30 minutes long. And for a meeting, you can then have a discussion after you show it. Done that at St. Louis Park, and we've had some good discussions with TED Talks. There's some of there. Then there's the documentary series. They're kind of long for a meeting, but they're some of them are really good. There's also Thurgood Marshall's one of them. I'm Not Your Negro, by James Baldwin. This was put together just a few years ago. It was shown on PBS. Academy Award winner, 2016 Best Documentary Feature. It is fantastic. There's a lot of history of starting early, James Baldwin coming up. I recommend this highly. There are other, if you could agree at a meeting to watch something that was an hour and a half long, and agree to meet for another half hour so that you could have discussion and all watch something like that, because some of them are worth it. And it's more fun to, have a bowl of popcorn and do it together, and then talk about it together. Definitions, there's a few at the bottom. There's definitions as well in the US site. They've got more lengthy definitions on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I would say that and might again add, as I add some things, I sometimes look, is there duplicates, too close on topic or whatever. But I think, oh yes, this would be good to add in. But yes, but the list is long, and so I go through that. But if people do, it doesn't mean I can get it on. There's one long book I've got. There's at least 2 from the standpoint of Muslim women. And so please go in and peruse. I put most of it together a few years ago, and then have been revising as I go. So let's see where we are. Okay, if we go back to here, we did work. Oh, it was now maybe almost a year ago. There was a group of DEI chairs, and we have many more DEI chairs now, but there were a few that were there on the list then. And we worked on an Indigenous land statement. And that's the one we came up with. And part of the really neat part about it was our conversations in making it and crafting it. And what word I don't like that word. Well, why not? Well, what word do you want to have? And we did some research from different sites. Other organizations had their process. Why did they did theirs? You know, it's only meaningful, really, if it's done with conviction. I know, Carol, you shared something. I think it was a couple nights ago at the roundtable. But when do you read it? Now that's a question. It could be one that we have, if we have any time for some conversation. Well, for one thing, this statement is not the one you have to use. You may, of course. You can craft your own, or just take out certain, because we're covering the state, look up, and I've got, let's see, here's a guide in them. Okay, here is a map, and you can look to see which nations, reservations might be in your area if you want to specifically hold them up in, or that it really is up to each league. But one of the pieces, when you say it, now there's another piece that is, let's see if I've got it the right one. Okay, beyond a land acknowledgement alone is not enough. I mean, you have it. If it's just words, it's just words. And we're talking about programs and action. Yes, we educate ourselves. Yeah, it's kind of a committee that you can really dive deep and come up with just the right words. But if it's not connected to action, and the committee, this was very, very strongly, we're not going to do this unless there's some action. And so part of our action at the state is actually putting together this portal that has two different, out of the four are looking at our Native peoples here in Minnesota. And so you need to find some way, maybe little at this point, maybe bigger. But if you use a land acknowledgement, you might say what it is. And we are doing X, or you may not, but know yourself and know with conviction when you talk about it. And with conviction, don't rattle it off if you use one. You know, it's kind of performative in the sense that, you know, even corporate companies have them. I substitute teach at this high school, and once a week they read it over the PA at the beginning of the day, and not a kid listens. Well, I can't say nobody does. Well, for one thing, the PA system is bad. You can't even hear it. So we'll give them a little bit of room there. But so they're said all over the place, which kind of takes a little bit of the punch out, but yet you want it to be people to be aware of it all over the place. But on the other hand, it can't be, well, everybody's doing it, so we should do it. And it becomes a little bit performative. If we have time in our conversation, that could be very well something that we could go into and we could share a little more about. So let's see, back to the fourth is Indians in Minnesota. And did anybody know that we have a book that was written out of a study in 2003? It's been revised 2000. Well, the 2003 is the last revision. It started, back before that. I guess I don't have it in the slide on here. It was, I think in the 60s was a study. But at any rate, it's been the Minnesota Historical Society is the one who publishes it. It's in many libraries. It's never gone out of print. The 5th edition came out in 2003. It's wonderful. So we actually do have a book. And actually it is on Indians of Minnesota. And some people have said, why are you still using the word Indians instead of Native peoples? Whatever. You know, it's every group. The piece is that you want to be respectful. And what if you're with someone, what is the term that you like to use or are comfortable with? Because it really varies. It's now not that many people use Latinx, but some do, and some Latino people do, and it's somewhat academic. But it's another one of those. Is it the right words or not? And again, it's out of respect. Find out what makes the most sense when you're using such as Indians of Minnesota, Native peoples of Minnesota, Indigenous of Minnesota. So yeah, just keep in mind that it's not you, it's them, and what is comfortable with them. Let's see if I know that's that. Also, there are buttons underneath. I've got that on there. The one shows the study. You can actually read the whole study. That's on the left-hand one. There's a little red button under. And then there's a little red button on the Indians, the book, and that'll it'll point you how to buy it. Though you can just go on one of those online places to buy it as well. It is listed and it is on there. So that's the fourth of those portal pieces. Okay, now this is another piece, the DEI lens, that's on the US website. It is wonderful because it is, here I was trying to see if I've got it. I've got it printed somewhere. What it is, it's a list of questions that can be used before any project or initiative, even if they're regular events. Okay, now we're going to do forums. Well, maybe look at those questions again. Most of them are logical. It's just that it gives you a list to go through. I mean, it's kind of like, well, that's a no-brainer. Well, yeah, but it has to be looked, it has to be actually said and thought out each time. But the whole list certainly doesn't. But beware of what's on that list. Look at it. I've got the URL for that one, so you can go into the US site with that URL. Because even though they're logical, it helps you to be aware of unconscious bias. Because it'll go, oh, we're doing okay, I got it. It can help us relook at things. But at any rate, there's the URL. The lens is very important. It's without even looking at those questions. It's what we do our work through now. It's that diversity, equity, inclusion, that piece. If we don't continually look at that, then it's going to go by the wayside. It's going to be siloed. It's going to be pulled out for one program a year for your league. They'll do that. If I'm not saying don't do that, but anyway. Okay, now we're going to get to ally. It was at a council meeting. It was about 5-6 years ago, and this was when we were in St. Cloud, and some of you folks have been around, maybe have gone to that. And that I did a small piece. Laura and Helmer and I did a wonderful a breakout session, but I did a little piece on being an ally. And I said it's a verb as well as a noun. And people said, no, that's not true. And I said, yes, it is true. And I got something, particularly from that author, Mia McKenzie, that she said, you really shouldn't use the word ally because that says you're it. That's it, that you are an ally, you've got it all figured out. Whereas as a verb, so from Merriam-Webster, it's kind of, because I just copied it, it's not real neat. But you can ally with someone. You are allied with this group. So it can be used as a verb, and probably we should use it as a verb. I'm becoming, I'm allying, I'm learning about, but to just say, and we are allies. Now there's a difference between an ally and someone with lived experience, and they come, it's the same topics, but with a little different focus, a little different the allies, we can't get inside someone else's skin, but if you've got lived experience, you don't have to teach the allies everything. You can occasionally, yes, that can be something, but that doesn't mean that that's your job. In fact, don't join a league and find yourself being the diversity, not just not diverse, but the diversity person. You can code, lead with that, because you each would come for a different angle. But at any rate, I think it's a very important topic to discuss. Be careful. There are two wonderful articles that I have included. One is So You Call Yourself an Ally by Jamie, I think it's Ut, I'm not sure. That's in the Everyday Feminism. And then Allies, Accomplices, and Saviors, Knowing the Difference. We are not supposed to be or are or can be a savior. We don't go out to save folks. And it sounds obvious, but again, you go into unconscious bias or whatever. Sometimes it's now I'm using an example that doesn't apply to you folks, but it's just trying to think of something. Okay, we're going to go register voters. You want to partner with folks. You don't want to show them how it's done. It's not that hard anyway. You go on the Secretary of State site and it'll walk you through registering. And you can tell someone that you can actually, if they've got something with them, walk it through instead of using paper. But you partner. And so it's just something, both those articles are great. So I did provide the URLs for them. We did this. We've got 10 minutes, maybe 8 or 9. Is there a topic? Allyship, Indigenous lands statements, going from education yourself, and it's a Venn diagram, by the way. I mean, you continually educate yourself, and you get into programs where you're a little bit more active in partnering and trying to increase your numbers in a respectful way. That's sometimes a struggle. I know it is in St. Louis Park. We have a large Somali population in St. Louis Park. And in fact, Minnesota has the largest Somali population outside of Somalia, and they're a failed state and starving right now. It's kind of sad. But we have not quite figured that out. There is a young council member. I think now she must be 24, maybe 25. She's been on the council for a couple of years, and she took us to task. We had her as a speaker, and we think we're progressive, we think we're liberal, all that kind of thing. And she said, yeah, I know St. Louis Park's a little, they think that and all that. But guess what? You don't talk to us a whole lot. And she was exaggerating. I mean, we want to, and the rest of the city, I think, in various ways want to, but we're unable in some ways to bring that conversation with them. Is there a topic in the time we've got left that somebody wants to say, I've got a question, or let's look at this? Because this whole thing where there is, I can show you a bunch of stuff like I just did, but is there something anybody wants to talk about?
Okay, bye. Yeah.
Okay, who's saying yeah? All I see is the on video, the one without the video on Zoom, the silhouette one.
Shelley, I think you could turn off your PowerPoint and then you'd be able to maybe see more people.
Let's see if I can do that. let's see.
Turn off the screen share at the top.
Yep, okay.
There.
Hey, you all have faces. Okay. Okay. Whoops. Okay, I'm back again. Oh, this is wonderful. I can see you. Okay. Anybody quick? Anybody want to just jump and we'll go with your topic or whatever? Or is there something that you want at a later date that we schedule a time to all get together and talk at length about?
Hi, this is Peg. I'm curious if the league has a strategic plan for Minnesota on how to implement inclusiveness in terms of recruitment and retention and voting, if we have one yet, and also if we have any training or ongoing trainings on DEI yet.
Okay, part of the August Academies and the January Jumpstarts, like this webinar, which is only an hour, comes under that category. We can do many others. I had for 2-3 books under what was called a big read, and we read them together, chapter by chapter with threads. That Facebook group still exists. You have to, if we can revive it with a book or just a topic discussion and thread, but it still is there dormant. But to join that group, you have to, either somebody at the office or myself or whatever has to okay you to join. And then we could, at a given time, say we're going to educate ourselves, read this book, talk about, bring resources on gender queerness or ableness. So there's a piece that that already exists that we can use. Back to the strategic plan. The last one we've had for several years, one of the biggest things it had on it is increasing numbers of the league boards as well as members, just members, is to get more people with lived experience on our boards. And I think we did increase, but I don't think we did what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Now we are right now just barely beginning a new major strategic planning. And you'll probably get information from Michelle on I know there's going to be some stuff at the convention that you can around the strategic planning. You can become a part of a group to brainstorm or talk about it or whatever. But that's going to go on for several months. And I think we need to get more, beyond just numbers. I think numbers will develop out of other stuff like partnerships, which are also hard, but they're a little easier than just say, there's nobody looks like you in our league, but gee whiz, because you look like you, come join us. I mean, I think that's, a little bit awkward, though many leagues do have one or two, and things seem to be, and some have several and more than that. Janet Kennedy in Duluth was president of their league. She's actually now president of the Duluth City Council. Absolutely amazing woman. She actually is the co-chair of their DEI committee. She and Gail Schoenfelder. And so she's a woman of color. And so that we're in the middle, and a piece of that, that's all the league stuff, this strategic planning. But there will be, and I'll try to make sure there is, a piece of that, as there was in the last strategic plan, about increasing our diversity and looking at the lens and looking ways that we can move from self-education to activism, the way we can tackle, well, one of the ones that right now is restore the vote. That's one of the top issues that there's a bill in both state legislatures. That's one of the bills that we are following right now. And that is a diversity issue. The marijuana bill, certainly it would allow any adult to smoke marijuana or whatever, but it's a social justice bill. And I don't think most people know that. It's like the prohibition with liquor and alcohol. No, we're not saying that marijuana is good for you. Liquor isn't either. But you put a prohibition on it, and suddenly you're throwing everybody in jail and creating cartels and all of that. And it's to get there's more a pipeline to prison over small offenses. And that's what that marijuana bill is. It's a social justice issue. Sure, it'll allow people to smoke, that adults that is, and it'll bring in some taxes. The other states that have done it don't say it's a whole lot. We're at 5:30. Does that answer your question, sort of?
That is a really good start. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, and there's probably more questions.
Shelley?
Anybody have a 2-minute-er?
You don't need to be in any rush to finish. There's nothing on after this, so you can talk as long as people have anything to say.
Okay, we're at 5:30. We certainly can go a few more minutes. I can't go a long time, but I certainly can go a few more minutes if you need to leave. It was advertised from 4:30 to 5:30, and everybody's on a schedule, even if it's just you need to make some dinner and rejoin your normal schedule of the evening. But if anybody has another question, I've been wondering about this, throw it out there. Thank you, Jane. Anybody use a land acknowledgement statement? And if so, when? And how's it been? Or what does it feel like? Or
Shelley knows my experience. I read one.
do.
Read one at I was moderating a voter forum, and I had a man come up to me after the meeting, after the forum, said, I don't want to discuss it, but and he was not friendly about it. He said, this is not the time and the place for such a statement. Turned around and walked away. So that was interesting.
Rita.
We use one, it's about half the length of yours. And it was one that one of our forum moderators, I think, used at classes at the university. We've used it for maybe 3 or 4 years now.
Sure.
It be for every candidate forum, every program. I can't, except for brews and book reviews, I can't think of anything where we haven't used it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And do you think it's like Carol had said she had that incident that was kind of odd? Have you?
Oh no,
does it feel good?
Ours, the thing that we debated last night on the board meeting, I wish Florence were still on. She would remember this.
Yeah, right.
What was ours is definitely condensed, because one of the comments was if they're too long, people start tuning out. And especially if it's done each time, so it's shorter. But it also acknowledges that many of our buildings, our society is based on African American or on the African slave trade. So there is another statement in there. And that's where I think, I don't know if there's a possibility that's going to be discussed in the future if we eliminate that and just keep it Minnesota-based land acknowledgement. But definitely, I would say half to a third the length of the one that the state has. Because we just.
Mine wasn't as long. What I did is I took from parts of it from the state's statement. And it could have been where I was, which I won't say where I was. It could have been where I was. That could have been the problem. There might be more tension in this particular area. Excuse me. But I did not expect that. I did not expect pushback on it, but got it.
I think
that's interesting because our communities are very different. And we've got the whole piece, particularly at school board meetings, but I think sometimes at councils where, we've got this whole countrywide division and some of the things that are happening in Florida of what they can read and not read and whatnot. And you can have this isn't just necessarily just about the statement, but I know a woman who was running for the school board. In fact, she was already she was running again. And I substitute teach. She teaches immersion Spanish. And so I substitute for her often. And she came up to me, she goes, "Oh, Shelley, there's people who won't show up because they think the league is this or that." And so there's a piece where we've got to, the nonpartisanship, we've got to show up that way. It's an interesting issue in some communities that league might run into, or at least they might know something happening in their community, but it's another topic.
Shelley, I just copied and pasted one that we use most of the time, but then some people that's even been condensed a little bit.
Sure.
It's copied and pasted in there.
Onto the chat. Okay.
And it's not necessarily going to be one that we'll use in the future because again, it was discussed, but again, we've been using it for a number of years. So
sure. Well, and there is a point that shorter, you keep people, interested. There's just the get the meeting going type of thing. But on the other hand, you want to make sure that, you've given it if you're going to say it, say it with conviction. So yeah, I'm not sure the magic length, and perhaps ours is on the longest side. I know that we had, when we put it together, it was we went away with our own group process. So it's partly the way we met as a group and just became, our discussions just were so rich. But the end product, I think it's fine. I think, but there's, there can be very good critiques, and they are again, and you haven't, nobody's indicated that they have. It's not required. It's the one we will read at the state. It's one that you're welcome to use as a whole or parts of. It's one you could use as a jumping off place if you're going to do your own. Well, here's one we can read. Let's see what we like about it. We want it shorter, say. And so there's that piece. Well, we're down to just a very few. People asked, whether we can, that as a group, if we can either use this as a networking list or perhaps make sure that there are further trainings, anything, look at when we're looking at our strategic plan, people might have ideas or things they want to say around DEI. But we've got the list now of those who've attended. We've also got the list of those that identify themselves as the DEI chairs of our different leagues. We got 35 leagues, and I think there's about 10, and that's about a third. Well, not a third, but a quarter. So we're getting there as far as people thinking it's an important thing to do. I'm so glad that everybody did come. Most people now have said goodbye. But I want to thank thank folks. And thanks for attending. And if people have specific topics for August or before, because we can always run a 4:30, I'm going to call it cocktail hour, but it's not cocktails, but I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, a gathering time, and have maybe topics where we just, use them as a jump point for conversation. Because those will, when COVID first hit, Michelle had several that people attended and kind of just, make some connections, being we couldn't see each other. We've also now found Zoom as a way for the whole state to be able to have conversation. Whereas, the different areas, and particularly the metro, became kind of insulated, and what we wanted to be more inclusive of geographic inclusivity.